again. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. So welcome everybody to Taking Back Our City 101, Running an Effective Campaign. Presented by me, Vicki Meek, as a part of our DallasArtsEquity.com program. Today's topic is running an effective campaign. Just to give you an overview of what Taking Back Our City 101 is about, it's to prepare NextGen and millennial artists of color and their allies to gain political power in Dallas, Texas, local, county, and state elections, and to train this demographic in grassroots political organizing, and to train potential NextGen and millennial political candidates for the various political offices. So, what are the key things to consider when contemplating a run for political office? Well, first, don't decide to run for office impulsively. To be successful, make the decision to run after you have laid the groundwork for this run years in advance. Now, most people who I've talked to in this city who decide to run for office do not do this. They do not take the time to develop a baseline for running for office, and that's the big mistake. Number two, make sure that the decision is your decision. Don't be pressured into it. Do it because you really want to serve your community. Don't do it because you don't like who's running for office or the incumbent, or you're mad because the city did something that you didn't like and you want to make sure they never do that again. Service to the community should be your first and only concern for making the choice to run for office. Campaigns are very expensive, so expect to fund at least the preliminary stage of your campaign. If you're a good fundraiser and you have some really good volunteers, you should be able to grow that war chest significantly. Campaigns are also very time consuming, and so it's not fair to the people who you want to support you for you to be a weekend campaigner. Races aren't won by part-timers. If you're not prepared to spend the time involved to be a good candidate, do not run. Research. Now this I cannot stress enough. If you want to win, and why would you run if you don't want to win? Embrace the ideas and the issues that concern the voters in your district or whoever you're running, whatever you're running for, if it's a district or a precinct or whatever. Make sure that you have tried to find out what your constituents want. Don't make the mistake of assuming that what they want is what you want. Read the papers, especially letters to the editor. Read opinion polls. Attend as many civic meetings as you can, and then attend a focus group or two. Check out internet forums on local news sites, because that'll give you some insight as to how people are thinking, especially if you are seeing people dealing with an issue that you know is about your neighborhood or your community. Know your prospective opponents and the incumbent, meaning research them. You know, it's very easy to find out how an incumbent has voted on issues that are important to your constituents. You can simply go to the city secretary's office and find out how they voted. You can also find out what kind of attendance record they have, like are they paying attention and coming to the meetings and participating. You can also find out whether or not these people have actually done what they're supposed to do as incumbents or as you know, representatives of the people, and put people on boards and commissions that are critical to the running of the city. You can find all of that out by checking with the city secretary as to who's on what committees and who they have appointed to those committees. Read everything you can find about them, and especially their record, their voting record, because you're going to want to use that information as you're developing your platform and understanding what the other person who was in that office, or even the people who are running for office, what they're saying their position will be on certain topics. Take a hard look at yourself. Make sure you, and if you have a spouse or a partner, have an impeccable personal, financial, and professional record. And that's because, as you know from some watching various campaigns, your life gets put on Front Street. And if you have any kind of shady past, trust me, it is going to get exposed during a campaign. So you want to make sure that everything that might be a problem has been cleared up. And hopefully you don't have anything that will be totally embarrassing to you if someone should bring it up during the course of your campaign. You're going to have to develop a thick skin because you will be the victim of ad hominem attacks, and your response can turn on or turn away your potential constituents. So, practice having somebody talk bad about you so that you can figure out how you're going to respond. There's nothing worse than a candidate being unprepared for the kind of stuff that can be thrown your way, and you fly off the handle and you attack somebody verbally or whatever, and the next thing you know, that's all you hear about in the campaign, that you're somebody who can't hold their temper and who should not be in office representing the people. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about, do I have the personality to run for office? Likewise, you really need to consult with your family, because your family may not be running for office, but because you are, they become targets of everybody out there who wants to take you down. So remember that they're going to be living in the public eye just like you are, and you need to make sure that your family is able to sustain that kind of fishbowl attention. Practice public speaking, and if necessary, hire a coach. Constantly watch your physical appearance. Carry yourself with confidence. Now, if you're somebody who tends to freeze up when you get in front of a large audience of people you don't know, it really would behoove you to hire a coach. And if you don't have money to hire a coach, if you have a friend who's in the theater world and who's an actor or whatever, it would be worth it for you to enlist that person's support as a coach to help you learn how to speak in a public setting. Keep in mind that if that person is a professional, you can use their help as an in-kind donation, and they can write it off as such on their taxes. Constantly watch yourself when you're in public, because the public's going to be watching you. Pay attention to your wardrobe and grooming habits. Use mouthwash and deodorant. I know that sounds funny, but how many times have you had a candidate come up in your grill and he's all funky breath? That kind of stuff can turn a person off, and the next thing you know, they're not voting for you just because you had bad breath. And of course, the same holds true for body odor, etc. But don't use too much of anything, because you don't want to come off as being insensitive to people's allergies or whatever. So you sparingly use your perfume or your cologne, but liberally use your mouthwash and deodorant. So who do I need to work with me? You got to make decisions on this. This is important, very important. Your most important decisions will be who will be your campaign manager and who will be your fundraising chairperson. Many a campaign has gone by and by because the candidate chose a friend or a relative rather than someone experienced for these jobs. A political campaign neophyte should never, I repeat, never start at managerial levels. These are the two campaign jobs worthy of a campaign paid expense. It may well be the best money you ever spend. So, your campaign manager, what are their tasks? Number one, they have to be able to field questions, which means that they have to be intimately aware of your platform and the kinds of things that you want the public to know about who you are as a candidate. They have to, number two, supervise your event. So you want somebody who has a really good sense of supervision and is very well organized. You do not want some scatterbrain being in charge of organizing your events, because the first event that somebody goes to that's disorganized, the next thing you know, your campaign is being labeled as totally disorganized. So you want to make sure that whoever you get as your campaign manager is somebody who has organizational skills. They're going to, 3, have to direct the volunteers. So what does that mean? That means you need to have somebody who is really good with people. You do not want somebody who is going to offend folks at the drop of a hat, got attitude, all of that, because your volunteers are just that. They're giving their precious time to help you win a campaign. So as far as I've always been concerned, volunteers are like gold, and you treat them that way. 4, this person has to keep the peace amongst the people who are working in your campaign. So once again, it's very important that this be a people person, somebody who really enjoys working with a lot of different kinds of people. Because here's the thing, you never know when you're running a campaign who's going to volunteer to work with you. And you don't want to turn anybody off to doing that by having somebody who does not respect all people from all walks of life who want to help you. And number 5, this person has to keep your schedule and free you up to do the things that you need to do on the campaign trail. So this has got to be somebody who's extremely organized and who will keep you on task. The second most important person is your fundraising chairperson, and they must be able to do 2 basic things. One is to set up lucrative projects, meaning fundraising projects that will help get money into the campaign chest. And 2, they have to be able to get next to those donors who they think will be the ones that will stick with you the entire campaign. And why is that important? Because you really will need money straight through the campaign. You need to be sure that you're not underfunded when you start out on this journey, because that can have you spending a bunch of money, then not winning, and having all of your donors be really, really depressed by that. And you don't know if you'll ever get them back if you decide to run again. So even though you are looking for people who are going to give that $10 and $20 here and there, you're also looking for people who are going to help you see your way through the entire campaign. And hopefully these are people who truly believe in you and truly believe in what you can bring to government in your city. So what's next? Here are some campaign positions that you might want to consider. Now, keep in mind that depending on how large or small the campaign is, you may or may not need all of these positions, but these are some of the typical campaign positions. Communications director, sometimes known as a press secretary. The communications director is in charge of all of the campaign's interactions with the media. And this is the person who everybody should go through in your campaign. You should not have multiple voices talking to the press or other media, because one of the things that can jam you up really quickly is having somebody make a statement out of context or something that you didn't necessarily want said at a particular time, and it can wreck the rest of your message. So you really want a singular person be the person that people go through in order to get information about your campaign. Field director, or the person who has voter contact. The field director is in charge of making sure the campaign gets its message out through direct voter contact. Their main responsibility is to develop a comprehensive plan that includes everything from door knocking to phoning people to IDing people to seeing if you have to get people registered, and to get them to persuade those people to vote for you. Campaign treasurer. Now, this person is not to be confused with your campaign fundraising chair or your finance person. The campaign treasurer is the person who oversees the financial and accounting aspects of the campaign. They're going to monitor all the contributions. They're going to maintain all of your financial records, and they're responsible for making sure that all of your paperwork is in order that is required by the city secretary in Dallas, and in other cases, the election board. So this is a person who absolutely, without fail, must be highly skilled at this, because the last thing you want is for your campaign records to be jacked up and for you to get in trouble for something that a campaign treasurer did not do. So you want to make sure that this is a person that has some experience working on campaigns and keeping financial records around those campaigns. Technology manager. This is a position that maybe 40 years ago would not have existed. But now, because we live in a social media and in a technologically advanced society, it is important to have somebody who coordinates all of the campaign's technology, be that the website, the database, and all the computer infrastructure, etc. You want to make sure that those things are kept timely, because the last thing you want to do is have a database that's outdated. You know, they got it from something 20 years ago. This is something that has to be done right now as you're running your campaign. Office manager. The office manager is responsible for maintaining the campaign headquarters and coordinating the administrative aspects of the campaign. And so once again, you want somebody who's highly organized, somebody who has a good sense of what it takes to keep an office running. And that means even little things like staying on top of, do you have enough postcards that you need to get out on any given day? Do you have enough, envelopes if you're mailing some things out? Do you have enough pens and pencils? Do you have enough phones set up for a phone bank? You know, that kind of thing. And then a legal advisor. And it's important to have access to a legal advisor who is well versed in election law and campaign finance, because just having a lawyer isn't going to help you if that person doesn't understand all the various and sundry responsibilities you have to live up to in order to deal with the election laws and the campaign financing laws. So you want to make sure that the people who need specific skills have those skills, and not just put somebody in there who likes you, has been a friend for whatever, and who says they want to help. They can help if they have the skills to do that. So here are some helpful websites that you can go to get this information in detail, because there are lots of details that you need to pay attention to. In Dallas, you want to go to the city secretary's office to get the candidate packet, and that will lay out for you everything you need to know about being a candidate for office in Dallas, Texas. There's also listed on here some webinars that talk about the way in which what the council role is, and how do what are your responsibilities. There's a website from Emily's List, which is a real good, here's what I need to check off and make sure before I decide to run, and then here's what I need to do if I decide to run to prepare myself to be the best candidate possible. And then beyond that is other information about the paperwork responsibilities. So your homework for next time around is you want to visit the helpful websites that I provided on this webinar and become familiar with the required documents for running for a city council race. Read the candidate's guide information so you know exactly what to expect should either you or someone you're wanting to support decides to run for office. Knowledge is the first step to a well-run campaign. Taking Back Our City 101s, the next webinar will be I'm Ready to Organize. And this is for all of you who have made the decision that you are in fact going to want to do the boots on the ground organizing training that I talked about at the very beginning of this series of webinars. I know it's not for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea to organize, but for those of you who want to tackle organizing the community so that we will begin to prepare a base for when we run the candidates that we want to run in 2019. Because remember, I told you, we recognize that there's an election in May of this year, but we have not had enough time to build the groundwork needed to win an election this year. Now, there may be some people who do win because we're helping some people, but trust me when I tell you that we are really going to be working towards the 2019 election, when we will have the time to have gotten our communities organized and candidates trained to do what they need to do once they get down at that horseshoe down at City Hall. So do yourself a favor and take your mind off the Trump tragedy by spending your time learning how to combat the madness. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for caring.